So we're going to take a look at how to create a drawing file for Onshape so that we can show clients or prospective people who you're working for or you're working with what the dimensions and the items that we have for their project that gets assembled, and they can have those parts created, manufactured. Depending on how much detail you put in there, it can be made with no end of materials or production processes. So let's go ahead and get into this. So to create a drawing file, you have to come down here to the plus, and we're just going to click on to create a drawing file. So let's do that now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the insert as we normally do. We're going to take a look at the project, and you're going to see all the parts right here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on here and click on the blue part, and that'll place the blue part right here. Now that's a little big for what we're going to do since we have multiple parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change here the view scale, and I'm going to make it 1 to 2. I'm going to make it down half, okay? And I'm just going to place it right here. Once I click on it, it will start to place the image right there. Now I'll just hit escape to back out of it, and we have this here. Now what I'm going to do is if I right click on my mouse, I can come here to the show hide, and I can bring up to show the shaded view. And now I have the shaded view. And now I want to change the orientation for it. Now if I click on here, double left click, I can come in here and I see the orientation view. So I'll change it to an isometric. So I get this nice isometric view right here. And now that is the view we have. So now to add extra views, what we can do is simply come in here. While we have the part selected, by clicking here, projected views, it automatically then does this. If I go to the bottom, it'll give me a view of this side here. To the left, it will custom create another view for me right here. So you see that there, and so on and so forth. So you see how this changes right here. So the corner, the sides. So you see all these different things right here. Okay. So I will go ahead and put that one here. That. And then I'll put another one right here. Just like that. Now the thing about this is that when you do that, these are dependent on this position. So if I go back in here and I change this from isometric to, say, the front view, these also change according to that also. So this is the front, so now it showed me how this looks from the bottom. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm also doing one thing. I'm going to click on here and I'll show the view label for each one. So that gives me an idea. Again, double click. I'm going to go to front. I'm going to choose the view label, and I'm going to accept that. And now it gives me a recombination of each view. And I'm going to turn on the view for each one of these, the labels, so you know exactly which view they are. Makes it easy for me. Also makes it easier for other people so they know exactly what view they're looking at. All right. Now, I can actually rearrange these a little. So I can move these here, put them however I want to a certain extent. Okay. Now, I said to a certain extent. You can't really do too many changes, but you can move them pretty well. Now, if I move this down, it moves the master down, the original. So you can't really go up and down, but you can go vertical across or horizontal. It depends on how you are. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to take our dimension tool. I'm going to zoom in a little more. And on the dimension tool, you just dimension out your parts. So if this is the right side of your piece, the dimensions just work exactly the way they normally do. Now here in my parts, I have the dimension set to have both the inches and the millimeters up. but you can change that if you want. So you see, you don't want to over dimension, so you don't want to do the same dimensions every time. So I don't need to do that's 2, but I can dimension this one right here. Right here. I can dimension here. That. We have that there. And then dimension this one right here. You dimension all the parts as we need. So always dimension out all the sides at least once so that whoever is working on this has a clear idea of what we're looking at. So we know this is a 3-inch side, that's a 3-inch side, and we know that this is right here. Now, this is going to be a little tricky since this is a full piece. So when you have something like this, always go like dimension it this way, and it'll give you a full dimension like that. Pretty simple. So just going to go dimension here like this. That's like that. Put out there. And then we know this is 2 inches here. We know this is 1 inch right here. Go ahead and dimension that right there. Just like that. And now we have this fully dimensioned. So we know that this is set up just like this, okay? And you can also click back on each one of the dimensions and move them around as you like, however you need. So let's do one more dimension, and I'll pick another part. So I'm going to insert a different part now. Now I don't really need to click on insert because all the parts are here loaded. So if I just click on here, I get the blue part. So make sure you don't make that mistake. So let's take a look at, I'm going to take the red part here. So the red part, I'm going to place an isometric view first. And I'm going to do a little differently for this one. So for the red one, instead of using the auxiliary views, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert the red part, but I'm going to insert it differently because I'm going to use another insert. I'm just going to not auxiliary it, but I'm going to put a new version on it. One, it lets me control the position better, and it lets me control what sides I see without having to worry about what default views are. So I can have a little more control that way. So that's another one. And then I'll come back here, click insert again, switch it to the red part. And from the front, I'm going to go to the left side, just like this. Okay. So now I have these views right here. Now, say I don't like the left side. Easy, double click right. Change the position, put the label on, and then when it's done, it turns. So that's pretty much it for that. And then just go ahead and dimension all your sides. And when you do, you got everything you need here to get all your measurements like that. And then you have all this. Now, dimensioning isometric is kind of weird because it changes the positions and sometimes gives you some weird measurements. So it's easier to measure these flat sides here. So that's easier, at least for me. So this is a 1 inch. We know this is 1 inch. And we know that this is a full 3 inches. You know that this is coming out right here. 2 inches. So, that gives you all that. Now, again, right click, show hide, shaded. Same idea. And it can also show hiddens. So you get the idea. It's always a good idea to show the hidden lines on certain views. For example, here on the front, you get the idea to see how this works out. So it gives the better idea when you look at this right here, that you see that, oh, okay, so this is a hidden line because that's there and this goes straight up. So you have that concept right there. So that's 3 and that's that. And again, you can move any one of the labels just by clicking on them. And you can reposition them. You can also mass highlight and move things around however you want, like this. So I'm giving this a little more room by moving it closer there. And then, yeah, just rearranging things to make it fit more parts on here. Like that. And as you go through that, eventually work that all out, and you can get all your parts on there. And then you have your drawing, which looks like this. So this is what my drawing finally came out to be. This is how I customized it, and I rearranged the parts, and I just placed them just like this. I used individual rotations and placed each one. Instead of using the auxiliary views, I just used the insert, and you inserted each part individually. And I didn't really put 2 views for each one. The yellow one, I just had 1 view because that's all I really needed. It gives me a better view here because you can't see it from isometric. So that's how we create our drawing files. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again.